So this is another video that I wanted to do for quite some time, and I think it could be useful to at least some people, particularly if you have a small wrist. And it's about how to size a pre-ceramic neo-vintage Rolex so it fits your wrist as good as possible. And we do have here a 16710, that's a GMT Master 2, and we got a 14060M, that's a Submariner. Well, some people call it a sub no date, but hey, it's basically a Submariner. So let's start right with the topic. So as much as I like those neo-vintage watches, the current production models, they do have some advantages to them as well. And I think in this context, noteworthy is obviously the bracelet and the clasp. And you can see that here. So the current production Rolexes, they do have solid center links all throughout. So they don't just have like solid end links like the GMT Master here has. But they also do have a milled out clasp, which makes the whole bracelet and as a result, the whole watch feel way more substantial, heavier, more luxurious, more like a luxury watch and less like a tool watch, basically. And I like it, at least in everyday wear and use, basically. I think it has a lot of advantages to it. Now, it also has new adjustment options. The new watches have that. They have 3 micro adjust positions. You also have some sort of micro adjust on the older models. And you do have an Easy Link extension. But again, more importantly, in this context, you have more links that you can actually take out of the bracelet to size it. Now, if I throw that one on my wrist, I didn't do any sports and it's not super warm, but fits quite well at the moment. You can see that the clasp is right in the middle where it should be. Even the inside of the clasp, I don't know if you can see that here. Basically, it's not really at the edge of my wrist. And if I count the links, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 oyster links, and then right after that, there's a bracelet. Now I can show you the GMT, which hasn't been sized yet. And basically still has an issue, so to say. If I put that on my wrist, you will see at first hand, you go like, that's actually not so bad, right? It's in the middle, but it's too big for me. Maybe it looks different now in video, but it's too big. And yes, the outer part of the clasp is pretty much centered, but the inside of the clasp, and I hope you can see that, it's really at the edge, I'll show you later, of my wrist. And if I do the count here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sort of, or 4.5 links on the oyster bracelet at the 6 o'clock position. Now, this one, there's already a solution for this one in place. So when I had this watch and I had it like for over 10 years, throughout the years, I would ask 1 or 2 ADs about, hey, how can I size this watch so it better fits my wrist? Because sometimes I felt like it was too big. Sometimes I was like, okay, it's fine the way it is. And every time they went back and said, yeah, well, I'm sorry, we can't make it any smaller because we took out all the links that we can take out on the 6 o'clock side. So the only thing that we can do is we can take this link out, destroy it, and have basically this link follow right after this one. Well, okay, I'm fine with destroying a link, but the thing is, this bracelet is nicely tapered, and if you attach this link to this one, you will have sort of a step down. And if you know me a little bit, if you watch my videos, obviously that's not a viable solution for me. So good news is there's actually a solution, and it's not the solution that I found out, but I came across on the forums. So it's really not my idea, but I just wanted to spread it and have other people benefit from it as well. You can basically not just destroy this link here, but you can, however, take this link out. I think you have to sort of destroy it and remove this rivet and basically rivet the clasp directly here. So you open this thingy here, right? I hope you can see it. Take everything out and attach the clasp directly to this link. And then you have, basically, you're mimicking a modern watch, because the modern watch also doesn't have this weird half link here, and that half link actually looks even weirder on the Submariner. So I'm not a fan of modding watches or all that stuff, but this is clearly, to me, if you have a small wrist, a superior solution, because then you will have 1, 2, 3, 4 links, 1, 2, 3, 4 links, just as on the Daytona, and it will sit perfectly. You can see that here. I can compare the Submariner with the with the GMT. You can see here we have the 1, 2, 3, 4 links, and it's directly attached. The clasp is riveted directly to basically this hollow center link here. And if I put that sub on my wrist, you can see that this is, well, okay, it looks a bit loose now, but I'm telling you, it fits perfectly. And you can see here with the sub, the clasp, the outer clasp is just as long as, wait a second, the outer clasp here is just as long as the clasp that goes underneath it, right? This thing here. I know my gloves are too big. Next time I'll take out the other ones. So, and you can see with this larger clasp that this is truly centered. Whereas if you look at the GMT, for example, you will see that the clasp here is obviously the same size, but the outer clasp is much shorter. So, you know what I mean? You see the difference here? Now, even though this may look good at first sight, give me a second. This looks good like this, right? But like this, you will see the outer clasp, the inside of the clasp is almost at the edge of my wrist. So that's clearly not a perfect solution. And I really think, again, I'm not a fan of modding, but I should have shown you that half link that goes into here on the Submariner. It looks kind of weird. And this is now gone, and it really very much looks like a modern day version. And I think it's a super cool solution. So what's also always important to consider when you size a watch is that it has to be somewhat balanced, right? And what I mean by that is this, right? So you can see that, I mean, usually the 6 o'clock side is a bit shorter, but then the 12 o'clock side, but the watch should be more or less balanced. And you can see here again the role that also the underside of the clasp plays. So this is sized, this is somewhat balanced, I would argue, so this is fine. I can show you the Submariner, which was already sized with the solution that I just presented here. Again, not my solution. This is also balanced, right? It's more or less the same when I let it hang like this. Now, let's look at the GMT, which hasn't been sized yet. If I close this one, give me a second, sorry. So this, I don't know if you can see it, it's clearly not balanced, right? One side is way longer than the other. So this is not balanced. And by taking this link out here, you will achieve exactly what you want to achieve to have a more balanced watch, and it's going to feel way more comfortable on your wrist. Not only look good at first sight, and then you have it on your wrist and you always feel like, it's kind of weird, it's not super comfortable. This is exactly why I'm such a big fan of this solution. Now, if you're picky like I am, and if you buy a new old stock watch, maybe you don't want to destroy that bracelet, right? So what can you do is you can get another clasp. And people will sell those clasps for ridiculous amounts of money, but you can go to your Rolex AD and they will sell you a clasp. And this is the clasp that I got for my GMT. And I will basically take that bracelet off and have that new clasp attached and go to a watchmaker, not an AD, because AD was not going to do that, and have this basically riveted, this rivet here remove, as I said before, and attach directly. So basically, in other words, you get rid of this link here. I think actually that's actually the type of link I think that I had on the sub. So you see this weird half link or whatever you want to call it is going to be gone. So there's not really need to pay ridiculous amounts of money on the gray market, I guess, to buy such a clasp. And one more thing, if you're a psycho like I am, you will receive that clasp, you will look at it and you go like, that's different. And why is it different? Now that's going to be hard to explain. But I can clearly see that, how can I say, those edges here are more clean cut than this one, or somewhat deeper. The finishing looks a bit different. The crown on it is a bit different. So what does it basically mean? Well, probably Rolex doesn't use the same machinery anymore as they used probably in the 90s and the 2000s, or they just changed the process ever so slightly. But if you can live with that, to have not a period correct clasp, but basically the same clasp directly from Rolex, a replacement clasp, then I would go with that. And also interestingly, I always thought that the inside of the clasp has those codes, right? And I thought that those replacement clasps, you can see here a code, I haven't flipped around, but one code here you see is CP12. Now those letters and numbers, they stand for whatever year that clasp was manufactured, not the watch, the clasp. And so CP, the letters would stand for a given year, and 12 would be the 12th month. Now, at some point, they started using random serials, so the CP doesn't really tell you anything anymore about which year that clasp is from. But with the other ones, you could have a look. So here you could say this is a EO code, EO3. So that thing makes it a 2007. So this clasp was produced in March 2007. Now, but what I always thought is that those replacement clasps would have an S engraved for service, but this one doesn't somehow. Anyway, that's the whole video. I hope it's as clear as possible. It's not rocket science, and I hope you find it useful. But to me, this can really make or break a watch and have you basically love the watch and wear it every day, or basically don't wear it that often. So I can, of course, shoot another video once this is sized, but basically this one will look like this one bracelet wise. And yeah, I hope it made sense. Any questions, put them in the comments. And I hope I didn't forget anything. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.